You put it in a partial. All right, so we're going to start with adding some reviews to, in my case, the recipes. And you'll be doing this for your article, I mean, not your articles. You're going to add to your blogs and your products. You're going to add reviews to your products, and you're going to add comments to your blogs, which is part of the final part. So the idea, you've all seen this, if you go to Amazon, for instance, and you look at a detail page of a book, at the bottom of their page, what do they have? They have reviews from the customers. And this is one of the big Web 2.0 things that started by allowing user-generated content. That was one big part of the Web 2.0. So allowing people to put comments on your products is a big deal. It allows you to manage them better. It makes it, you can answer their comments right there in their page, address their issues so they don't go off and make their own website. When I was with the web crossing side, we used to use a site called kmartsucks.com because some guy got disenchanted with Kmart. He went out and made his own website. And you guys see how easy it is. Tom uses this pig farmer example as an example. I can throw up a website that just hates on a company really easily, right? 5 minutes I can throw up a website. So it's better to manage people's expectations right there in front of the world. Let them air out their problems, but then fix them. Make sure you address their problem right there so people see that you're working with the customers and you're responding to them. So this whole idea of it's can be complicated. It can be a little dangerous to allow people to type stuff on your website. You're displaying stuff like that. But anyway, it's a required thing now. People expect that. And it brings people back to your site. You're always wanting to generate return trips, right? So people post a comment, they can go back and see if somebody else posted something. Everybody loves to see reviews on a specific thing. If it's reviewed really well, then I want to try that recipe in my case, etc. So the way we do a review belongs to a specific product. We only see reviews in a detail page of our product, for instance. In my case, I'm going to switch back to recipes. My recipe detail page is going to show the reviews of all of those, of all of the customer reviews on that one page. So in this case right here, this is, sorry, I had to cough. We're only going to look at the views, the reviews on the view page itself, the show page of a particular recipe. So in the database world, we look at this like a model might have many different reviews, and a review table might belong to a specific recipe. Okay, so we have our normal review table here. Our recipe table. We have a recipe ID and the name and the ingredients and when it was last made and all of those properties of all of our recipes. And then corresponding to each one of these, hey, that's nice. Corresponding to each one of these, I have a bunch of reviews. There might be 20 or 30 reviews for a single recipe, right? So in that case, you have to think back in your SQL days. This has a foreign key in my review table. This table here has, well, how come it doesn't switch? That's funny. Anyway, my review table has a list of all the reviews for all of my recipes. But a specific column, a row, one record is one review, and it has a foreign key here. So this particular review belongs to this recipe ID. So there's this foreign key that goes back to the recipe ID here. So that's how we link these two tables together. Right? In a database world, you'd have to do something like that. So when you try to pull up the detail page for a single recipe, you also want to pull up all of the reviews associated with that recipe, right? So what SQL command would you do to get that data?
Select all from reviews where recipe ID equals
1 or whatever it is, right? Yeah, so select all from reviews where recipe ID equals the recipe ID over here. So that foreign key lets me look through and find, okay, I've got one here, I've got one here. It's going to pull back 2 reviews for my 1 recipe row over here. Does everybody see that? We have a foreign key relationship to our recipes here. So Rails does this by using some English commands. These are actually methods. We specify our recipe model as having many reviews. So a recipe has many reviews. So this is actually a method name, and it ties it to the table that I'm going to set up to store all of my reviews for all of my recipes. And then in my review model, I say that a specific review belongs to a single recipe. So every review has to belong to a single recipe. Okay, so it reads very nicely. So I wanted to show you that concept first, and let's build a table. Let's build our review table first, because I already have my recipe table, right? I just want to add some reviews to my recipes. So I'm going to use the scaffolding, even though I'm going to delete a lot of the stuff that's left over. I'm going to run a scaffold, generate a scaffold, and we're going to call it review. And what does a review need in it? Well, in my case, I'm going to have a title for my review, which might be a string. I'm going to have an author, which might be a string. Excuse me. I might have the actual review text itself. I'm going to call it content. How about that? That sounds good. And that's going to be a text field because it could store more data. And later on, I'm going to add a rating to this, which I'm going to store as an integer, so that they can rate the product itself. And I need to tell it now, who are these going to belong to? What is the foreign key for my review here? So I'm going to say my table name is called what? What am I going to attach this to? My recipe. And I'm going to say use a keyword references. Okay? And hopefully that hasn't changed in 328. But that is going to be my foreign key. I need a foreign key in my review table to point back to the specific recipe. So I'm going to say go ahead and generate that puppy. Any questions so far? All right, let's continue. So it generated all of these files for me, just the standard migration files. It created a review model, some text and some views and everything associated with my review model. So let's go look at the migration first. The most recent one here. So I have a table here with my title, author, content, my rating, and then my references, which is a foreign key to my recipe model. So then it knows that since I put this references in here, if I go to my recipe model, my new thing here, no, not my recipe model, my review model, it says, oh, you want this to belong to a recipe. So every record in my review table belongs to a specific recipe. So this sets up the foreign key relationship between these two models, just this one-line statement here. Then if I look at my my recipe, it does not do that yet. I need to tell my recipe that it has a lot of reviews associated with it. So I need to add a line here that says has many reviews. All right, so it reads, the plurality reads like English. I have many reviews, and in my review, it belongs to a single recipe. So that all just makes sense, right? That just kind of makes that connection between those two tables very nicely. So let's look in the console. Let's see. Actually, let me migrate my review table. I need to migrate that to make it part of my actual SQL database. Well, first of all, that would be silly. But second of all, it would be the way you do that. There's another way of doing that too, and I have to think about the name. It's has one review would be the instead of has many. Yeah. So, but that's the idea. You could have a one-to-one relationship. This is a one-to-many relationship. And we can have a many-to-many relationship as well, which we probably won't get to this quarter. That uses the word has and belongs to many as a method name, and it creates that relationship for me. So let's look at my console, and let's pick out a specific recipe. Let me find my first recipe that is here. And now that I've set up this relationship, I can say, does my recipe have any reviews? I can say a.reviews. That does the SQL command for me to look at that foreign key relationship for me. Isn't that great? That's just sweet. I don't have to do what I asked you. Select from reviews where review.recipe ID equals 172. Okay, it does that for me.
Run those as methods? As individual methods?
Reviews?
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a method.
Well, it was just meaning like that SQL command. The way it's written, it's select reviews dot star.
That's because the recipe ID is stored in the reviews table here. So I could say, obviously I don't have any reviews in my system yet, so let's go and try to create one. So if I want to associate it with this particular recipe, my implement end-to-end portals recipe, I can say a.reviews.create, right? I want to create a new review, and I pass it some information, like the title was something like first review. My author is something like Dave. My content is something like this is so cool. And my rating, let's add a rating just for fun. I haven't decided. I'm going to make my ratings from 1 to 5, so I'm going to give it a 4. And that's all I need to do. I don't need to specify the foreign key because I'm calling this method on the actual recipe that I want to associate it with. So it will do that for me automatically. See, isn't that great? I didn't put a hash rocket. So we'll do that again. So it says insert into reviews all this information. It came up with the recipe ID itself, and it inserted that based on the recipe ID that A is. So now if I look at A.reviews, I see I have one review associated with that. Isn't that cool? So now when I'm listing my detail, I'll notice what type of variable is my reviews. It's an array of review objects that are associated with this particular recipe. So as I'm laying out the show page of my recipe, I can also loop through and display all the reviews associated with that. Isn't that great? So let's play with getting the reviews added to look like they're correct on my recipe page. Now that I know I can display them, I would do that in what page? Recipe show page. Very good. So if I look at my views, I look at my recipe, this is where I'm going to show a detail page of what this recipe is. And down here, I might want to display all of the recipes, all of the reviews for this particular recipe. So how do I get that information? What is the recipe variable that stores this particular recipe in this view? At recipe, right? So that gives me something already.
At recipe review.
So I'm going to list through all of them. And I can say at recipe dot, how do I get all the reviews? Reviews dot each. All right. Reviews gives me all of them as an array. And I'm going to say, what would I call my variable in here then? Not recipe. Review. Single review. That just makes it read nicely. And I put an end over here. And now I have in this, my review is what type of variable?
An object.
What type of object? A review object, so it has review properties. I can display those review properties here. So I could lay out each one of these and say something like, put it in a P tag, or maybe I'm going to really blow your mind and put a bold tag, because you guys love those, and put the title. So I could say output the review.title. Then I'm going to put the review.author, right? Maybe put a break tag. I could put I could print out the review.content, which is the actual data. We'll put that into some P tags. Isn't that nice?
That seemed like a little bit harder than just.
A little harder. If I knew the command key, it would be faster.
Like, that looked than just typing.
What else do I have? The rating. So I could put the rating of this guy, review.rating. And let's just do that for now. So this is going to print out all of this data for each of my reviews. All right? And I'm going to put, blow your mind again, do a horizontal rule, which is, I think, stupid to deprecate. You know how much it takes to write a horizontal rule in CSS? Like 4 lines of code to do what this does. Just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, let's go look at a specific review. And this was the first one, so this should come up. And I have none in there.
That's 'cause
It was...
for item like 170.
Review ID is 1, so I need to get... No, not my review.
ID is
My
1.
A.ID. What is that? That's 172. So I need to look at my 172 page, 172 article. I think because I'm sorting them in reverse order. So now I see, this is my first review. Displays the title, the author, this is cool, and here's the rating.
Beautiful.
Isn't that cool? So if I added another one, let's say let's create a new one, let's just do this again. Give them a different rating of 1. This is so not cool. Second review, and Sally. So if I create a new one, now how many reviews does this recipe have? 2, right? If I look at each one of them, It's an array of review objects. If I reload my page now, I've got 2 reviews. Isn't that sweet? So obviously I can lay this out as however I want. I can add my own styling to this, make it look cool.
Well, I wouldn't think so.
Well,
in case
and then-
they wrote some like crazy hate speech.
I want to show the reviews on every page. I want the users to be able to see the review as well. From an administrator point of view, you might add the capability to delete a review, but you need to be careful with that. I think it's better, and I've argued this as a ethical thing, it's better to leave the bad review there and handle it there. Reply to that review and say, I'm sorry you didn't like this. What can we do to make it better? Handle it so that in a customer service way. If they put some profanity in it or something like that, then I could delete the message.
Just
Yes.
something completely unrelated.
Yep. And I have a ton of experience in discussion boards. You got to be careful about deleting things because then it changes the discussion. If you have people that said something and then somebody flames the guy, writes this terrible thing and then deletes the message, but the problem is the original poster might have replied back to this guy that now his message is gone, and he looks like the fool for replying to something that's no longer there. So you have to be careful about deleted. Some people put the word deleted in place of a message that's gone just to show that the context has changed, things like that. So you got to be careful with deleting context.
But then you can have people look like they're having really crazy conversations with
Yep.
themselves.
I know.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so I can change this, obviously, make this look better.
Then again, it's
Uh, And the next thing would be how would I allow them to create a review? I mean, I have a way here of showing the reviews, but I'd have to type in my console every time I want to create a review.
Check if there was logged in first. And then if they were logged in, then you allow them a text edit field.
Okay, so I need a form. I would argue that being logged in or not is a site preference. You can allow people to post when they're not logged in, or force them to be logged in. That's a site
You
preference.
want non-users to view your products?
Sure. So it's a choice of the site whether to do that. So we need a form. We need some way of creating this data to create the new reviews here. All right. So unfortunately, that's going to take too much time. So I'll do that tomorrow. Let's play with this review. I got a few minutes. Let's play with displaying this information a little nicer. Let's put this whole thing in a div so we could style it. Yeah.
We put HRs in between each one.
Yeah, we probably only want one, so fine, I'll put it at the top. Then I want to show, sometimes they have a way of saying, wouldn't it be nice to know when this review was written?
They did.
Yes.
Because if this is 10 years ago, the review might not be as relevant as it is now, right? So I need to show when this review was created. And something that came out around 2005 or so, people started doing this really cool way of showing dates that progress into the past. And Rails picked up on that, and they have a method that lets me display that. So what do I know about this particular review that tells me when it was? Right. There's a created at field that's automatically created in the timestamps. Remember? Every record has a created at. So if I look at my record here, it has a created at on a specific day, right? That gives me a date timestamp here for that particular creation. So I can use that information and maybe write something like here. I'll add a nifty little command called, it's called time ago in words, if I remember it right. Time ago in words, all right? So I could say, call this method. Remember, we could use truncate and all of these view helpers. There's one called time ago in words. And I give it the time from this particular review, which is review.created at. All right, so let's see what happens.
Black magic.
It's some cool stuff. Okay, so it says 12 minutes, Dave, this is so cool. 6 minutes, Sally, this is not so cool. So this was created sooner, so I might want to say ago, right? Might add the word ago. So, but such and such said, make this look a little nicer. 12 minutes ago, Dave said, this is cool. Isn't that sweet? Every time I refresh this page, these times are going to go up because time has passed from its creation date. Now it says 13 minutes ago and 7 minutes ago.
Black magic.
Obviously, I need a space here. You know, we can fix this up nicer. Excuse me. So that's a pretty nice little feature. And that will start saying hours ago and days ago and months ago and years ago as far back as it goes, right? So any questions on that?
I have
Yeah.
a question. So when the user write review, right? Then when they put submit, the review, all the data will go to database, right?
Yes.
Then from database display again.
Yes. Right.
So, but I want to know is between there is somebody from the website, the maintenance people, they will view the review first, or doesn't matter if they got in the database and they display automatically. How they control? They have somebody have to read all the time constantly.
That's again a site preference, whether you want the post to show up automatically. They call that moderation. So I could have all of these be moderated. I'd have to write the code to do that, but that would mean that somebody has to look at the post before it actually gets shown to the people. This is not moderated, meaning whatever they post gets put in immediately.
That's more American style.
So
Moderation is,
too much, right? You
some
don't know.
some sites do that, some don't. But it's leaning more, it was big in the early days because people were afraid of users typing their own content, but now it's become less and less necessary to have moderation. The moderation is such that you can delete the message if it's obscene.
Automatic moderation now.
Yeah, right. People, yes, true too.
Code that will, like when it posts, it'll scan and make sure that there aren't certain words
Yeah.
in it, and if there are, it just
Yeah, there are things like obscenity filters that automatically see if the text has obscene words in it, and that fails. When I wrote some code for CNN, actually, their obscenity filter that we had was about 500 words long. Can you imagine 500 words that are obscene? Because not only do you have to worry about the English words, you have to worry about the Spanish and the French and some different words that people know. And if you ever look at 500 obscene words, that you'll blow your head off. I mean, that's really bad stuff. But so obscenity filters are another way to do that. So that's enough for today. Tomorrow we will add the form to post a new review and show you how to do all of that.